This is Richard Fowler. I'm John Kilpatrick with Okolona Aikido, Louisville, Kentucky, USA. And I want to show you some basic weapon stuff, and then we'll go back to looking at those three katas that we're looking at, three Jo Katas, but there's some basic weapon things I want to show you. And the first one, we'll look at something called Marabashi, which means bridge of life. And it's where guys are on a log across an abyss, and neither one of them will yield to the other one. That's the idea. But the real idea is it's much like Western fencing. You stay on a line. You don't step off the line when you do this. So in this, the basic thing is that we're both totally bullheaded. And so we both raise our swords, and then we step into each other and cut, and we both die. And so that's the basic scenario. And so then they teach you something which, you know, they just teach this to you, and I had the idea when they taught it, this is some kind of a secret Aikido technique or something, but really it's a basic Kendo exercise. But the exercise is that when I raise my sword, instead of raising it straight back, I tilt it a little bit to the side. So I raise it back and it tilts a little, and then I cut straight into him, but my sword snaps in from a tilt, and it knocks his sword out of the way, so it looks something like this. So, back up just a little, back up a little more, there we go. So we come toward each other here, and if he comes straight and I have that tilt, it deflects his sword to the side and splits his head, and it works really nicely. So the problem with that, though, is, like I said, everybody knows this. So we're both going to do that. And when we both do that, what's going to happen is that we bind here. And actually, Richard's a lot bigger and stronger than I am, and so we're probably, bind or no bind, he's probably going to just cut through it, and I'm going to die here, and he's going to win. And I'm the teacher, I'm supposed to win. So that's no good. So we can't do that. So the nice thing about this is that in Western style fencing, the normal thing that you do, what you learn as a beginner, is that if he comes in, say he's going to thrust at me with the sword, and I'm going to step back and parry and then repose. And so, again, so he thrusts. So I yield to him as he comes in. Now yielding, he's, expecting, well, in Western style fencing, of course everybody knows what you're going to do. But if he really forced that in, then as I step back and yield, it tends to suck him into it, and he tends to fall. It's very much like a Zushi or leading effect. And so now we'll do that with this Marabashi technique as we come in to face each other, and we attack here, and I yield. And ideally I cut his wrist as I do that, and then I thrust. So by yielding, I can, if both of us yield, then all that happens is we just end up separating and nobody gets hurt. I would a lot rather do a technique where if everybody does it, I don't get hurt, than a technique where if everybody does it, I die. That kind of thing appeals to me. And then there's one other thing while we're looking at this that I want to show you, and that is if he strikes with Yoko Manucci and I come here, this is not a good situation, and where you're striking at heads is one that shows up. But what really happens, let's say if you don't do what we do, but if you just do standard, say, Jo fighting, we'll play like these are Jo's, and he strikes like that, well, what I'm going to really do is knock this down and slide into his arm. So I'm going to knock his Jo down, smash his hand, and then come up into him with the end of the Jo. Well, so really, parrying, smashing Joes together and stuff is really dangerous, because if he's a little better than I am, or a little lucky or something, it'll be me that gets my hand smashed instead of him. Everybody knows all these techniques, and so even though I'm attacking him and he goes to parry it, if I get that before he gets, if I can get that twist in there and get it before he gets it, I win. So we try to avoid those things. And so what we do is do the leading. And the way the leading works with a Yoko Manucci is a little different than what we normally do. So with this, when he comes in, so instead of, what I'm going to do here, instead of colliding with him, as he starts, I extend this, and this gets his attention. Now he can step around it, but then I swing it around and come and hit his wrist, and then I come into his throat and finish the technique. So that's how we do the leading with the Yoko Manucci. And if we do this empty-handed, it's really the same kind of thing. He strikes, and I just let it and come in with this hand, and I can do, anything that I want to do there. And this can be really elegant. Starov, the Russian guy that does no contact sistema, he stands against the wall where he can't move back at all, and his partner, swings at him from the side, and he'll put his hand up here and lead it right past his face without getting hit, and he doesn't step back. I'm not good enough to make that consistently work. Sometimes I can make it work and sometimes I can't. And then a lot of times we do it, usually we're training with knives, training knives of course, and it's really hard for me to make that work. That the guy's, with his hand, a lot of times I can do that. With a training knife I can't. So if he's got, when he does that kind of cut, and I have the, what I do is step back again. So he strikes, and I'm here. So we're doing that kind of movement. The movement's not important, but what is important is that it's our basic pivoting. So these are some details about principles of fighting. And then we'll make another video soon where we continue on looking at our katas.